Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this new HP Developer Community Meetup. My name is Frédéric Passeron, and I'm leading along with Mathieu Josmed in the chat here in the team. We're both working for the developer community. So today we'll be talking about HP OpsRamp Service Maps, and we'll be having an introduction and some demos. And among the speakers, we'll be seeing Ravi, JC, Ram, Krishna, Shrikant, Mahesh, and Ranga Rao. And I'm not pronouncing your family name because we have only an hour and that will not do otherwise. So while people are joining, we'll be having a very quick, simple video that will show you what service maps are.
Service Maps is your lifesaver if you manage complex, distributed, or multi-cloud environments. Think of them as dynamic, real-time visualizations that show how all your IT infrastructure components, servers, applications, databases, networks, work together to deliver critical business services. It's like having a live blueprint of your IT ecosystem. With this kind of visibility, you can quickly identify and resolve issues before they impact your business.
Okay. And if people are still joining, we'll have
Service
another
Maps is your lifesaver if you manage complex, distributed, or multi-cloud environments. Think of them as dynamic, real-time visualizations that show how all your IT infrastructure components, servers, applications, databases, networks, work together to deliver critical business services. It's like having a live blueprint of your IT ecosystem. With this kind of visibility, you can quickly identify and resolve issues before they impact your business. Service Maps is your lifesaver if you manage complex, distributed.
Okay, I think we've seen enough for now. So, for those of you who are not aware of what the developer community is all about, I'll be doing a few housekeeping items to introduce you with what we're talking about here. So, there's only one web portal that you should know about, which is developer.hp.com, and this will allow you to reach out to some skill up section or training section, actually, where meetups, as you are attending today, are actually being promoted. So the meetups are down to the bone type of technical sessions where we take into account the how to things of technology. So for today, we'll be learning about how to build up some service maps. But next week, no, next month, sorry, we'll have some Aruba expert talking about building network analytics visualizers with HPE APIs. So, and maybe that in August we'll be seeing again some OpsRamp content. So, but we'll see to this. If you want to learn about more high-level type of industry standard technologies, well, the Mensch and Learned are here to help you out in doing so. So these are really, thought leadership, vendor product agnostic type of approach and talks. And for now, we don't have anything planned in the forthcoming months, but we'll try to bring up some new expert to bring up some, industry visions on what the dev community is all about. We also have some AI-related subjects. So we used to have panel discussion that were called the AI Jam series. And for now, we'll try to resurrect them as well in September. So we're working on this to bring up some new AI content as well to the field and to the community. So not only can you attend these type of virtual webinars that we are doing today, you could also learn by yourself, doing some workshops on demand. So we are in a process of rebuilding the workshops and the catalog. So please give them a try and provide some feedback. We need you to help us out in doing so. And I'll try to work with some OpsRamp people actually to bring some OpsRamp content into the catalog as well. So this is a community, so it's all about sharing and contributing all together. So you can join these meetings, but you can invite others to join these very simple talks. So it could be partners, in the company. It could be internal people from HP. It could be customers. All of them are welcome to join our talks. You can also sign up for our newsletter, and this is very important. This is only once in a month. We won't be flooding you with, lots of email, only once at the beginning of the month, and we'll be summarizing all the latest and greatest that has been occurring, in the community. So replays of this session will be promoted into the July newsletter, for instance, the latest blogs on OpsRamp and AI and other amorphous subjects. for instance, they will show up in the newsletter and they will allow you to have some, recurrent and up-to-date information about the community. Should you be willing to talk to an expert and to exchange on questions that you may have, you can also sign up to our Slack workspace. Okay, this will allow you to interact with some developers and experts on a given technology. You can follow us on Twitter, and should you be an SME like Ravi and his peers, well, you can also participate in the community by providing some blog or reaching out to us to actually participate and present to a meetup or a Munch and Learn or create some content in a workshops on demand. So just to summarize all this very quickly, developer.hp.com, and we've been having spending a lot of time in revamping the portal. So give it a go and have a look, and you will see that we've been working a lot on reprogramming and representing the information within the portal, and it's much more modern and much more accurate. So please give it a try. Otherwise, these are all the links that you should know about, the Slack workspace, the public one, the internal one for internal HPE people, the newsletter if you want to sign up. If you want to contact us, you can mail to hpedev@hp.com. You can follow us on Twitter, and if you want to reach out for the workshops on demand, that's about it. And now I'll be stopping my sharing and leave the stage to Ravi to present you HPE OpsRamp Service Maps. So I'm stopping it right now. Oops, I forgot the button. Sorry, here you go. And over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, Frederick. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, for all our delegates here across the world. We've got some wonderful participation in there. And as I actually scan through our delegates here for today, I see that some of you are already experts. But please, I hope you guys enjoy the session once again. You've used service maps extensively, right? So in today's session, we'd like to do a demo of how to create a service map in HPE OpsRamp. To introduce it, what's a service map? A service map is fundamentally a diagram which you can see in here, a flow chart connecting various infrastructure components in your IT infrastructure. And it offers a dynamic, a real-time visualization on how they're all linked to deliver a business service. What are the benefits of using a service map? Now, it provides end-to-end visibility of IT services. Along with the representation, it also shows how various applications, servers, our databases, our networks are all connected to deliver one application service or a business service as a whole, right? It shows the relation between these components clearly. It shows the service dependencies. It helps us understand them very clearly through a visual representation. Now, during any of our outages or critical issues occurring in our environment, it helps us reach the diagnosis of it quickly by pinpointing to the root cause of the issue, right? It can also do this by highlighting the issue nodes, so issue regions with a color code. How great is that? Now, OpsRamp Service Maps also provide us real-time monitoring updates. So it can dynamically update alerts and incidents associated with the service map components. In our upcoming slides, upcoming demo, Ram is going to show us how that is going to work, right? And it also provides us the ease to manage the service maps in scaling infrastructures, right? It can link multiple service maps, which we were created for isolated applications to build one business service. And it can also update the resources in our environment based on the scaling up or scaling down needs, right? And finally, very important of all, while any standard ITOM or AIOps tool can provide us the availability at a component level, right? The device availability at a component level. OpsRamp can also provide us the service level availability, right? These reports are going to be very important if you want to report on your services to your customers or to your leadership. Now, before we start, right? How do we get started with the service maps? Now, let's look at the various type of service maps we can leverage in OpsRamp. The easiest of the ones, of course, are site-wise or geolocation-wise service maps. we can easily create them through our existing topology maps also. That's a faster method. Next is our domain-wise service maps. Now, if a lead of a Wintel tower, as we call it, or a VMware tower, likes to see their entire estate of all the VMs across the globe, a service map can be built for them. And the distinctive feature, which is our business or application service maps, right? If you want to see how various components of an application are linked and they together contribute to the overall availability of a service, that's available too. Before we get started, what should we do? Now, I remember this age-old tip given by one of my bosses that, when I wanted to do a PowerPoint presentation, I was directly opening a PPT and then starting to type over there to build the presentation. He said, no, don't do that. Have all your content ready first, right? Have all your data ready first, your graphs, everything else ready first, and then stitch your story and then open a PowerPoint. Exactly like that. Before you start off with a service map, it's important that we keep the repository of all the inventory together, which we want to, visualize on a service map. And next, let's check whether all the devices we want to, represent on the service map are onboarded and whether they are all monitored on OpsRamp or not. I know, expecting this as a question towards the end, if the device is not on OpsRamp, can we see it in a service map? It's a no. I'm answering that right now, right? And finally, if you want to create an application or a business service map, please have a flow chart, a physical flow chart, preferably a Visio diagram ready of that application or of that business service before we go ahead and open the OpsRamp tool to create a service map pertinent to it. These are good starting points. And now I'll hand it over to Ram, who's one of our senior SMEs, who will show us a quick demo on how to create a service map on OpsRamp. Over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Ravi. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. So this is where the landing page of a service map, and we have to go to infrastructure and select service maps to come here. And once we are here, this is the landing page. So as we can see here, to add a service map, we just have to click on add and get started with it. Today, for the purpose of the demo, as earlier mentioned by Ravi, I will be showing one application service availability map and a site level service map. So this is not a benchmark of measuring anything. It's just one of the use cases where we will be taking the minimum of what is required in a service map and creating the subgroups and showing it. As and when the enterprise real-time comes into the picture, the complexity will grow and we can develop the service map and grow over it. So we just have to specify a user and identifiable name. So this is the first building block, which is the service of a service map. Okay, the main configuration of it, I'll explain it at the last point because that would make really sense up. Okay, so when we are defining an application has building blocks like application servers, database servers, and network infrastructure stack. And that's what we are going to build as individual nodes over here. So for that, we will just click on plus. So it will populate an subcategory or subgroup. And here we have 4 node types. In this subnode, we have 4 categories to choose from. We can either define another service over here, or we can select some resources in this node, or we can link a map. Okay. If we have an existing service maps, okay, we can link it to the service map by selecting that particular map. Okay, this is with the link map feature. Now, again, if we don't want to link the entire service map, but we want to link only some selected modules under that particular service map. Say when we are creating modules, we might have a common stack like network stack or core switches or common firewalls for a particular site or for a particular application. In that case, it wouldn't make sense to create groups and groups again and add them manually to service map. In that case, what we can do is we can click on import map, select the desired service map, and here we can select the subgroup which we want to add to this particular module. So we have that much granular flexibility. So for this demo purpose, I'll just go with the resources. I'll define a name for this. Then we have two ways of selecting the resources. Number one, that is through assigned set queries, that we can create a customized query for this and we can select it, or we can select the resources manually. For the demo purpose, I have already created a group. So I'll select the query. Selecting a query through a resource group is always advisable, because as and when what happens is we would create this particular group with certain prior set query, like same OS devices or names. So as and when new devices come into the discovery profile, those devices will automatically get added to this particular part of the group and will be available for monitoring under the service maps. After selecting the devices, we come to something called a service availability monitor. This is really very important. So we have three ways in which we can choose the service availability monitor. What this essentially does is this defines the availability of the resources or the services that are already selected in the resource groups. The first one is availability. Availability option takes the default availability metrics that are set for these devices. For example, we have servers and network devices. And for any typical network device, one of the availability metrics can be ping template. So when we select ping template as an availability metric, those will be considered by default as an availability metrics over here. So if its ping is lost, this particular devices under this node will be considered unavailable. Then we have any critical alert. If we choose this, what happens is if any critical alert is triggered on the selected devices, those particular devices will be treated as down. And then we have the most granular choice at the user disposal, that is critical alert on selected metrics. When we select this, we have an utmost flexibility to choose any or all. That means we can define a critical alert metric for these resources and say that these metrics will be unavailable when these particular metrics are selected, and we can choose and select them. Okay, for this demo purpose, I'll select the availability, the default choice, and go with it. Now, availability thresholds. Now, mark as down when number of down members are greater than or equal to 1. So what happens is there are two choices over here, that is number of down members and percentage of down members. Number of down members, we will be defining the numbers over here. Say suppose if we have 3 servers and if we consider this node to be down when 2 or more servers are down, then we have to define that number. But it's always advisable to go ahead with the percentage of down members. The reason being, as and when we scale to a new number of servers, okay, it's always advisable to go with the percentage. So this happens, then we don't have to manually change everything, numbers. So we will go ahead with this. Then we can click on send an alert when this particular node is degraded or down. Okay, so what happens is an alert will be triggered if this particular node is degraded or down. And coming over here, we have assigned custom attributes. So if we create any custom attributes and we want to assign them over here, we can add them over here. And also we can attach knowledge base articles for any troubleshooting steps that needs to be followed when this node is down or degraded. So I'll click on save. So as we can see, it's added application metric. Click on down. So this is the application servers that I have added. What I'll do is I'll add the DB servers now. We will follow the same set of steps. We will define the name. We will come to the query. We will select device group, contains. As I have already defined the DB servers group, I'll select it and it will select the DB servers group. I'll click on apply. The servers will become a part of this particular node. I'll go ahead with the default availability that is chosen, and I'll change the percentage of down members to 50%. And click on send an alert when this node is down. As I don't have any custom attributes or knowledge base to select, I'll save this. So as we can see, whenever we are selecting certain metrics, a green up arrow is coming, which basically indicates that the set threshold is not breached and this particular node is up and running. For the last one of the building block, select network stack. I'll go ahead with the availability. Percentage of down members is greater than 50%. I'll send an alert when this node is degraded or down. I'll click on save. Close. So this is how the subnodes are defined. Now coming to the main node. As I said earlier, these we have defined the rules basing on which the subnodes will be defined up or down, but we have not defined the rule for the main application. So as we can see, the availability threshold is marked down when number of down members or percentage of down members, again, we have the same choices, is greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Since I know that there are only certain defined members over here, I'll select when number of down members is greater than 1, mark this node as down, and I'll click on send an alert when this node is down, and I'll save it. So what happens is when any of these nodes, subnodes that are defined over here goes down, the entire application will be degraded as down. So this is how we can define an application's availability. Now, this is just one of the used cases with a bare minimum requirement, but in actual enterprise, as we know, the complexity and the scale grows and we can have sub domains and it can scale up. Also, what I want to bring to attention is that when we navigate to infrastructure and network topology, when we have these topology components, okay, and if we want to add any of the core topology components like firewalls or core network switches to any of the existing service maps, what we can do is we can click on the device come to actions and say assign to service maps. Directly, we will have an option for new service map or an existing service map. New service map, we have to define a new service map. And existing service map, we can select an existing service map and add these resources accordingly. So that kind of flexibility also we have. So for the second use case of the demo, I will go ahead and present a site level service map. So this is a very useful use case for remote office and branch office sites. In a typical enterprise environment, the connection to a remote and branch office sites basically depends on three main equipments. That is number one, the firewall, and number two, the load balancer, and number three, either a core switch or a router. Now, it's not a hard and fast rule that these three should be the edge devices. There can be any number of edge devices, even a single edge device with a service provider subscription is there. But for this particular use case, I will be taking these three devices as the edge devices and will be defining the site's availability basing on this. So I have already defined the services. So let's define subgroups now. The first one will be core switch service stack. So we will be taking a core switch over here, and we will be going ahead with the default availability metrics that are available. And then we will be selecting percentage of down members greater than or equal to 50%. Then we will send an alert when this node is degraded or down. As I don't have any custom attributes or knowledge base articles, go ahead and save this. Likewise, we will define firewall. I will select the default availability metrics and go ahead with percentage of down members greater than 50%. Send an alert when this node is down or degraded. I'll save it. Likewise, the last piece of this one will be load balancer. So we will select the load balancers over here, go with the default availability metrics, change it to percentage of down members, is greater than 50%. Send alert node when degraded or down. Click on save. So as you can see, since all the individual nodes are up, the site level service is also up. And as earlier, we will define the site number service as last. So mark the site as down when number of down members is greater than or equal to 1. So I'm saying that any one of these members is unreachable. I'll consider this complete site as down. Click on send an alert when this node is downgraded and click on save. So this site will be degraded if any case any one of these members are down. So that's it for the demo now. JC, can you share the screen? Yes. So over here we have how we can work with service maps. Now on the left, the first pointer you see filter service map nodes. So this is service map. This is how we filter the service maps nodes. And as you can see, the node status, there are basically 3 node statuses, that is down, up, or degraded. Okay. So up and down, we know what exactly it means. When the resources are up and the rule criteria is met, the resources will be down. If not, they are completely up. Now, degraded is an option which is available for the parent application or site level that we defined. So depending on the rules that we have defined, if the number of the nodes in the earlier case was 1, we said that any one of the nodes goes down, we can consider the parent node as down. So that's what it will be degraded to when any of the available nodes are down. Okay, this is how we can filter. Imagine a complex application in an enterprise scenario where we have hundreds of modules of building blocks, application servers, network stacks, and things like that. In that, when we build up a service map, many teams come into the picture and they add their own monitored resources. In case of outages, we can quickly come here, select the desired option, and quickly drill into the to see which component is causing the problem. Okay. On the right hand side, we can see view connection paths to root node. So we can see how the root node is connected and the individual nodes are connected to the root node, which define the subnodes. So expand and collapse feature is another service map feature that we have. So as earlier, what we can do is the left hand side, if you see, there are subgroup nodes which are defined under each of the node. Okay, so we can expand them and collapse them when we click on the subnodes. Likewise, with the parent nodes, we can expand and collapse based on when we click them. On the right hand side, you can see search service map nodes. So in case of a big enterprise complex service map that we have defined, if we have to drill down, clicking on expanding it, collapsing, it might take some time. So in order to avoid that, what we can do is we can come here, we can specify the service map node name, and we can quickly search and go to the service map to see what exactly is happening under the hood. Yeah. Now I'll pass it on to Ravi to take it forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Ram. Thank you for that insightful demo. Thank you for that. So we are already having questions pouring in, and I'm trying to answer. We're trying to answer as much as we can. However, right, if you have seen what Ram was showing in the demo, there are quite a few intriguing things out there on how we configure these, right? So we thought we'll package a small set of best practices before you start or just as you start by creating the service maps, right? So the first point to remember is please start with a physical flowchart or a visual diagram. This will be a top-down approach before you get into the OpsRamp tool to configure a service map, right? Just at the beginning. However, when you're creating a service map, have a rather bottoms-up approach, right? So take a hypothetical example of an application A for which there are 2 application servers, 2 database servers, and say 2 storage servers underneath it, right? So instead of define the first node as application A and underneath app servers, storage servers, etc., start from the bottommost layer, which is application servers. Create that node and add the resources under them. Have the storage servers node, add them under them. Why? Like Ram has explained earlier, when you create this node as, for example, for network stack, right? If you create a network stack node, that's available as an individual service map by itself, right? Now imagine a situation where you have to use this network stack node for multiple other applications, right? You need not recreate this for every service map that you use. You can directly pull this network stack node and say, I want to use this as well in the other application service map. Or imagine a scenario, a more complex scenario, where there is an application which is used across 20 different sites worldwide, right? It has a limited number of 5 or 6 storage servers in a centralized database, and the database servers also in a centralized database, but the application servers are spread across all the 20 sites, right? So you would want this complex service map to reflect the application servers across all the 20 different sites, but the connectivity should still be the central data centers, database service maps, databases, and the storage servers from there, right? So if you have this bottoms-up approach, you'll be able to connect them a lot better and have a better output to, later times, right? And of course, we also have this question, and I'm trying to answer it as well, right? The next one is always define. And when I say always, try and always agree with the business to define it at a threshold level, the availability threshold in percentages instead of numbers. By the way, if your business priority or the application's priority says, no, even if one application server is down, I want to call it critical or yellow, feel free to call it by numbers also. That's not a problem. However, we recommend to define it as percentages by keeping future in mind. Straight away, I'm sure you all have the answer already. Today, if in my application, right, but IT is here to stay and IT is always going to scale up, right? So today, my number of users for this application are, say, X. And for them, the application defined and said, I need 2 application servers, right? Tomorrow, this may become 2X or 4X, the demand increases. So I may want to scale these, the app servers or my database servers to by 2X or 3X, right? In that case, today, if in my service map, I said, if one database server is down, call it red. Then after I scale up to 2X or 3X, even then, if I say one database server is down, call it yellow, then there is a potential of noise increasing in the environment, right? But like I said, the business says it's a very critical application, and out of my 10 or 20 database servers, which may become 50 in future, even if one is down, call it yellow or red, feel free to have it. All right. Percentages help us, addressing what I was referring to next, which is keeping an eye on future discovery and future scaling up of the infrastructure. So when you're defining the resources under the nodes, which Ram was showing earlier, instead of giving the resource names, try and see if you can group all these resources under a resource group. Now, it can be looked at by using the resource grouping feature in OpsRamp. So please group these similar resources under a resource group and try and add that resource group in under this node. How is that going to be helpful? The same reason. In future, from these 2 resources, it became 4 resources under the for this application. I don't have to add these manually in future. Today, if I'm adding them manually, each resource name by name, I'll have to go and manage these. You see how adding resource groups, or some of the organizations, infra organizations also follow nomenclature, right? Like app, DB, XYZ. So, you can also, while defining the service map, you can also say that, if the resource name appears like this, go ahead and add it here. So keep that also in mind. Feel free to leverage that also to define the nodes. All right. Like we were referring to earlier, service maps, if we configure them right, they're futuristic. They can manage themselves. We don't have to manage them. It's a one-time setup and lifetime usage. These can be. All right. And finally, experiment sufficiently, right? Because we are not really, how do I say, we are not really defining or discovering anything new, right? It's not going to have any impact on the licensing also, as long as you are discovering the existing resources also only, right? So feel free to go ahead and experiment sufficiently, whether you're creating service maps by sites, by geos, or by domains, right? Because you are the ones who are going to manage the expectation of various domain leaders, site leaders, and infrastructure leadership in future, feel free to experiment, show them the views, have their buy-in, put them on dashboards, give those views. And the other question we had was, can you enable alerting? Yes, you can certainly enable alerting and reporting also on the service map. You have application A. The customer says, look, I have enough of views of whether, to say if all the components under this service are green, I'm going to call this application green. But the customer says that's not the right approach. I want to really check whether this service is available or not. You can enable reporting also on service maps. So experiment sufficiently. And if you're in doubt, you always have the product support team. Go ahead and raise a case. And the easiest form on how to remember about starting the physical workflow, but having a bottoms-up approach, always define threshold percentages, keeping an eye on future discovery and experiment sufficiently. Remember this with a short form, shake. Just shake them, guys. All right.